Okay, looking at number 48 and number 50. Number 48 on the online test, the illustration did not show up, so it was kind of hard to tell what they were, it just made it more difficult to understand what they were asking. The cost of shipping a package is determined by the sum of the length of the longest side of the package and its girth. So we have to understand what the girth is. We see when we look at the package, the longest side is 42. Okay, let's call that the length. And the girth is going to be the perimeter of the other two dimensions. So if this is length, then we have width and height. So perimeter is the sum of all the sides of a two-dimensional figure. So what we're looking at for the girth is the sum of the side lengths of the face of this box here, this front side of the box, for example. So we have 19 and 19, 11 and 11. So 19 and 19 is 38, 11 and 11 is 22. So 38 plus 22 is 60. So the girth is 60. So the directions tell us to add the girth to the longest side, so that's 42. So 60 plus 42 is 108. So the package meets the requirements for shipping. Okay, looking at number 50, which statement is logically equivalent? Okay, that's the key word there, logically equivalent to the conditional statement below. So remember, we learned the different forms of a conditional statement. You have your original if-then statement. You have the inverse, the converse, and the contrapositive. Okay, logically equivalent. Statements that are logically equivalent if they're both always true or they're both always false. Okay, they can't be one true and one false. So we have four statements, and we have two pairs of two pairs of each of those that are logically equivalent. Remember, the way I told you to remember is that the verses are always both true or both false. The inverse and the converse are always both true or both false. So if you can remember that the verses are logically equivalent, either both true or false, then by elimination you have the other pair of statements that are always both true or both false, logically equivalent. So the inverse and the converse are logically equivalent, so that leaves you with the original conditional statement and the contrapositive that must be logically equivalent, either both true or both false. So when we look at the statement given here, this is the original conditional statement. If it is Saturday, then I have volleyball practice. Okay? So that tells me that the contrapositive has to be the logical equivalent. So I need to create the contrapositive and find it in the choices. Remember, the contrapositive is the converse of the inverse. Converse being reverse. So it's the reverse of the inverse. What's the inverse? The inverse is the negated form of the original conditional statement. Negating meaning your no's become yeses or your positives becomes negatives, or vice versa. Your yeses become no's and your negatives become positives. So in this statement, if it is Saturday becomes if it is not Saturday. Then I have volleyball practice becomes then I do not have volleyball practice. So that's the inverse, or the negated form of the statement. So then we need to reverse or swap our if and then statements to get the contrapositive. So then I do not have volleyball practice becomes my if statement. If I do not have volleyball practice, if it is Saturday becomes my then. If it is not Saturday becomes my then statement. If it is not Saturday. So what I have is if I do not have volleyball practice, then it is not Saturday, which is answer choice C.